Okay, this is my final video in the simulator series, and this is definitely my favourite for lots of reasons. Can you hear that? That is servo noise. The attention to detail on this simulator is absolutely amazing. Now I'm recording this in 60 frames per second because it's actually running at near to 400 frames per second, 378 if you want an accurate number. So when I record using the video recorder, I get a solid 60 frames per second, which I don't get from the other ones. I get anywhere between 25 to 30, so this one really using the GPU power, and that's another reason for why it's one of my favorites. Just look at this, the 3D control is amazing, and then you can turn this smoke on. This takes me back to when I was a kid, when I used to go to air shows, and you'd get some top-notch pilot showing off doing this, the plane just disappearing behind the smoke there. I never had the funds to be able to have one of these big petrol aircraft, so now I get to do it on the simulator, of course, without all the mess of all the fuel and all the expense. I prefer to fly electric aircraft these days, much cleaner, but it's really fun to replicate this. Some lovely rolls here. Now, as I mentioned, I'm recording this at 60 frames per second. It does drop sometimes, especially when the smoke is on, but for the most part it's getting 60 frames per second. It's not going to give you an exact representation of what I'm looking at, because I'm seeing 300 frames per second, and it's really hard to describe, but it really is just like real life. The plane just flies so smoothly, it moves through the air like it does in real life, and it's kind of a hard thing to show on these videos for a couple of reasons. To be able to record in high frame rate whilst playing the game requires a really fast computer, and it's similar to sort of trying to, you know, review some video goggles or do a review of, like, you know, a 3D or like a 3D monitor or something like that. It's one of the rare things that you kind of do have to see for yourself, but you're gonna have to take my word on this. If it's graphics and realism that you want, this is the one, but you do have to have quite a good graphics card to run it, which I do have. So bear that in mind when looking through all these simulator videos. We've got like a knife edge, like Cuban 8 here, which is just brilliant. I don't do well at flying and talking at the same time, but yeah, this is just so much fun, and I love just turning the smoke on. Oh dear, that was an example there of me not concentrating. I kind of like this. It shows as well, people would sort of blip the throttle and it would turn the smoke on and off. Got a lovely snap roll there. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not I don't have a routine or anything like that. When I was younger and I used to go to shows and perform at shows, I had a bit more of a routine, but that's a little bit unrealistic there. That kind of, you know, what can you say? That's probably my fault for pushing the boundaries of this aircraft, which you kind of can do in simulators. Sometimes for them to be able to get the accurate characteristics, it sometimes has to get pushed further than a normal aircraft will be able to do. Now this is something that I touched on before in Phoenix. Look at what we get here when flying over the grass. You get this line across the grass, and also if you crash into the grass, you get the same. The aircraft disappears into this line. Now I don't know if that's an artifact of my graphics card, but it certainly doesn't do it with the Phoenix simulator. But I'm afraid I'm gonna have to forgive this simulator for that, because it just runs in any other way better than Phoenix. So it's kind of like that's the only thing I can pick out with this simulator that is kind of like buggy, and that is the grass disappearing. I mean, look at this slow rolling Harrier here. I didn't manage to find an aircraft in Phoenix that could do that, but I probably just didn't go through them all, but I absolutely love this biplane. And then we've got a lovely smooth landing there, probably the best landing that I've done in all of this. I'm just going to taxi back. Now what I'm going to have to do is switch videos because the menus don't get recorded in my video recorder, so it's not a problem with the software, it's just a problem for making this video. So on to the next scenario. So I have loaded a 3D scenario which is entitled Boneyard. I get a better frame rate in the 3D settings, which is a bit strange. But this is a great 3D setting. It's sort of placed in a kind of a graveyard for aircraft, and it's really cool for FPV. Just thought I'd load this aircraft and fly around and maybe try a couple of the different views. I'm just going to bring it down here so that I can change the view. But yeah, I've loaded this scenario to get some FPV footage from the sort of DJI quadcopter aircraft that you get with this. I've flipped into the follow mode here, and very similar to the Phoenix view here. Look at that, you've got some birds flying around waiting to eat things. Try not to hit them. I don't know what happens if you do hit them. I don't encourage anything like that. So, but this is really cool actually, to get this perspective of it. You never get this perspective of a aircraft, so it's more of a kind of proper flight simulator view. But what I like about it is when you go into 3D hovering mode, it still keeps a nice view. It keeps the ground in view, so you can still see everything, which is unusual for a flight simulator, which I quite like. And actually, all the real flight simulators that I've ever flown could never get the rudder right. It could never do knife edge, and of course, this has got it perfect here. And we get a nice sort of side slipping from the biplane there. I mean, the flight characteristics are just like nothing else. When I was younger, I used to do a lot of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and the rudder authority and realism was absolutely terrible on it. And this is running so smooth as well. I've just switched to cockpit view there. Now, with this particular aircraft, the cockpit view isn't as good as the Phoenix Flight Simulator, but I'll load an aircraft later, and it is just aircraft specific, the cockpit, so it just so happens that this particular one that I've picked isn't very good. But I do think that this one beats out the Phoenix Flight Simulator. You get that lovely muffled sound of the engine when you switch inside. I love that detail. But you do get that with the Phoenix Flight Simulator. I'm just coming for a landing here. And oh yeah, it's just running so good and smooth. So with this scenario, I'm going to load in the quadcopter next. I've just flipped the view, and that's where we are. The aircraft just disappears in the background. So I've loaded their DJI Phantom copy, which, you know, it's just called Quadcopter X in this, but it's clearly a DJI Phantom. No gimbal on this one, however, there is a gimbal quadcopter in this, and you can control the gimbal, which is really good. However, there's no GPS options. There's auto leveling. You can flip auto leveling on a switch, so I turn it off here, and you can do a very lazy roll. But as for sort of quadcopter functions, I'm afraid the Android app does still beat out everything. So I'm just flipping between views here, because you've got the option for FPV live feed, which is this one, and you just sort of get the arms in shot there. There's not much difference between this view and also the sort of the nose cam view, if you will. But what I do like is it's not completely smooth. You see here as I accelerate, you do get slight kind of jitters, which is something that you would experience in a live FPV feed. However, there's no sort of telemetry on there and sort of on-screen display, which would have been quite nice. But you know, I mean, it's like, how far do you go? And also, quadcopters are considerably new when it comes to this sort of thing, so maybe there'll be updates, maybe there already is an update for this sort of thing. But yeah, just flipping to the outside view now in the follow mode and just checking out the different views. I've spotted a sort of a metal sheet on the floor that I'm going to try and land in on the FPV view. Let's see if I can do that. Not a great landing, but there you go. Yeah, that's a quick look at the quadcopter there. So for the final segment of the video, I've loaded this aerobatic aircraft that's got wingtip canisters on it, and can you see there, you can open the canopy on one of the switches of the TX. Nice little touch there. I absolutely love this. You know, look at that, and we can go up and do a stall and fly through our own smoke. Just really nice touch. The frame rate suffering there on the recording when the smoke gets bunched up. This aircraft flies really nice. It flies very scale, but still able to do 3D maneuvers. I'm not sure how they do this on the actual in real life. I think maybe they're using smoke canisters rather than burning diesel to get the smoke. You can't turn it off. They do a nice outside loop here, and look at that. Just, I don't think I've ever done a good outside loop like that in real life. When I was younger, I used to put streamers on my aircraft, and that's a load of fun. Although you can end up mashing up your motors if you ever cut through your own streamer and it gets tangled up. Definitely done that before. Just love that even in this 3D scene that it runs smoothly. Trying to go for a inverted flat spin there, but not quite managing it. This aircraft, like I say, flies a bit more scale. It's not got as higher throws as some of the 3D aircraft, but it's so much fun to fly. I'm going to try and do a bit of a hover here and see if I can disappear. Now that smoke is really thick, it completely disappeared behind the smoke. I think it's torque rolling in the background there. Yes. So yeah, this is just great. This is the simulator that I'm using the most at the moment. You know, I have all the other simulators, and they're all good for their different things. They all slightly offer different things. Oh, nearly smashed the wing off there, but they kind of do the same things as well. So, you know, you kind of really need to look through the features and look at your computer that you've got as well. I'm not sure how this one would run on a computer with a lower GPU. I'm sure it would run fine. You can alter the settings here. So I'm just changing the views here. Look at that. This is the FPV view, and you even get sort of like a G-force effect where you get pushed into the seat like a real plane. You can see there it says cockpit at the bottom there. And that gets a bit confusing when you start doing snap rolls and your head sort of flies away. But yeah, I think it's meant to be more sort of a realistic view, this. And it'd been a nice touch if the artificial horizon there moved, but it's just a picture. The control stick does move. It's kind of annoying when the head movement is so crazy when you're doing snap rolls, but I'm sure that can be changed. It's just my control input's really harsh, maybe. But this is great. And then if you just press next, we can do the front seat. So it seems that the cockpit view is really vastly improved depending on which aircraft you pick. Just the roll rate on that is just crazy. And I like it's kind of a nice touch as well that you can still see the smoke. Sometimes in simulators in the past, when you switch views, like little touches like that are forgotten, where it switches the views and you don't get the smoke anymore. This is a nice outside shot of this plane as well. Brilliant. I think you can set up head tracking as well in this, but I don't have any facilities to do that. And then you've got a tail view here, which is nice as well. You can see the stick still moving, the ailerons. Just fantastic graphics there. Flying with some birds here, try not to hit them. Got very close there on the nose cam. back to the chase cam, similar to what you saw before. What I'm going to try and do is fly back to where sort of the ground view is, and see if I can't remember where it is. I'm just skipping through all the views there to try and get the ground view. There we go. So I'm going to try and fly back towards us and do a bit of a landing. And that is going to conclude my simulator videos. I've had a lot of fun making them, and I hope it's helped you to decide what simulator to get. Thanks a lot for watching, and please subscribe. Cheers.